Okay, folks, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into the AI revolution.
Sounds exciting.
It is, especially because we're talking about something called LLaMA, and it's a real game changer. I mean, we've all seen those headlines about AI that can practically write a best-selling novel, right?
Yeah, it's been pretty wild to see.
Totally. But what's got me really intrigued is what happens when that power isn't just controlled by the big tech companies.
That's a huge question, and it gets to the heart of what makes large language models, or LLMs, so fascinating. I mean, the fact that we have AI that can process information and generate text like this was basically science fiction a few years ago.
Exactly. But it's like there's been this velvet rope separating most of us from these super powerful
Right,
tools.
and that always gets you thinking. Who gets to shape the future of something as potentially world-changing as AI?
And are we even thinking about the potential biases baked into these models if only a select few are building them?
That's where LLaMA enters the picture. Developed by Meta AI, LLaMA is designed with openness in mind. Imagine a world where researchers everywhere, not just those at big tech companies, have the keys to explore, tinker with, and build upon these incredibly powerful AI models.
Wait, so instead of a walled garden, it's more like an open source AI playground?
You got it. And that's the really mind-blowing part. We're not talking about some second-rate AI here.
Oh, you got my attention now.
Llama can go toe-to-toe with the big names like ChatGPT's GPT-3 in some tests, and it does it all while being smaller and more efficient.
Hold on. So we've got a lean, mean language modeling machine that's also accessible to a wider range of researchers.
Exactly. Researchers who might not have access to massive computing power can still work with Llama and make meaningful contributions to the field.
I'm already picturing a bunch of garage inventors suddenly having the same tools as the big tech labs. What kind of impact could that have on AI development?
Well, it could be huge. I mean, it's all about democratizing AI research, right?
Yeah.
Opening up access like this means we could see a burst of innovation with new and diverse approaches to AI emerging faster than ever before.
This is already more exciting than my last trip to the library, and trust me, I love the library. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's break down what makes Llama tick. The research paper mentions a transformer architecture,
Ah, yes.
and then there's the training data, which is practically, well, unimaginable in its scale.
That's a good way to put it.
So help me wrap my head around this. What is a transformer architecture when we're talking about AI?
Imagine a really, really sophisticated pattern recognition system, but instead of recognizing images, it's recognizing patterns in language. That's essentially what the transformer architecture does. It helps the AI understand the relationships between words and phrases.
Okay, so it's like teaching a computer to actually understand language, not just spit out words like a high-tech parrot.
Precisely. And the way it learns is through training, which is where that massive data set you mentioned comes in.
Right, the 1.4 trillion tokens. Even my inner word nerd had to do a double take on that number.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it? We're talking about feeding the AI an amount of text and code equivalent to reading a book every minute for over 2,700 years.
Okay, that analogy actually broke my brain for a second.
It puts it into perspective, though, right? It's this massive data set that allows Llama to generate such human-like text and code.
That's incredible. But to train an AI on that much data efficiently, it seems like trying to teach a million monkeys to write Shakespeare, except this time it actually worked.
That's the thing. The Llama team didn't just throw a mountain of data at the problem and hope for the best. They used some really innovative optimization techniques to streamline the training process, making it far more efficient than anyone thought possible.
And that efficiency is a key part of what makes Llama so accessible, right?
Absolutely. Researchers don't need a supercomputer the size of a small moon to work with it.
So we've got this lean, mean language modeling machine, and it's been fed more information than any human could process in 1,000 lifetimes, but how does it actually stack up against the heavyweights in the AI ring?
That's the question, isn't it? The million-dollar question. But I think it's safe to say the results speak for themselves.
Oh, I love it when the data does the talking. Hit me with those insights.
Well, one of the most impressive things about Llama is that even the smaller versions, I'm doing air quotes here, even those can outperform much larger models.
Oh, okay, now I'm curious. What do you mean by smaller versions? Is it like different configurations of Llama?
It's a good question. So when we're talking about the size of these large language models, we often refer to their parameters, which is basically a measure of their complexity.
Okay, so the more parameters, the more powerful the AI.
Generally speaking, yes. More parameters mean more processing power, more connections, kind of like having more brain cells.
Makes sense.
And that's why those giant models with hundreds of billions of parameters were getting all the attention.
Right. It was all about who had the biggest AI.
Exactly. But what's remarkable about LLaMA is that its architecture is so efficient that it can achieve incredible results with fewer parameters. It's kind of like that David versus Goliath comparison you made earlier.
So it's not just about brute force, it's about elegance and efficiency.
You got it.
I like it, but I'm a bit of a skeptic, so seeing is believing. What kind of real-world tasks are we talking about here? Give me the specifics.
Well, the research paper goes into great detail about how LLaMA was tested on a whole range of tasks. And honestly, the results are pretty amazing. Take something like zero-shot reasoning, for example.
Zero-shot reasoning. Sounds intense.
It is. It basically means the AI has to solve a problem it's never seen before.
Oh, so no practice rounds, just thrown right into the deep end.
Exactly. And it has to do this without any specific training on that type of problem.
Kind of like trying to assemble that bookshelf from IKEA without the instructions, my personal nemesis.
Exactly. It's really a test of how well the AI can apply its general knowledge to new and unexpected situations.
And how did LLaMA do?
It consistently outperformed GPT-3 on those zero-shot reasoning tasks, which is really saying something because it's significantly smaller.
Okay, now that's impressive. So we're talking about an AI that can think on its feet, so to speak. What else can this thing do?
You name it, LLaMA has probably tried it. We're talking everything from translating languages to writing different kinds of creative content. It can even generate computer code. And in many cases, it's performing as well as, or even better than, models many times its size.
I'm definitely picking up what you're putting down here. Smaller package, huge potential. But I have to ask, this whole open philosophy around LLaMA, it sounds amazing in theory, but it also seems like it could be a bit of a double-edged sword, right?
What do you mean?
Well, on one hand, you've got this incredibly powerful tool that's suddenly accessible to a much wider range of people. But on the other hand, what about the potential for misuse?
It's a valid concern, and it's something the creators of LLaMA definitely addressed in their research paper.
Right, because it's like that old saying, right? With great power comes great responsibility. And handing over the keys to this super powerful AI model to, well, pretty much anyone who wants to tinker with it, it seems like that would require a whole lot of responsibility, maybe even more so than with your typical tech release.
It absolutely does, and you can tell that the creators of LLaMA really grappled with that. They're very clear in the paper that this kind of open access has to be approached thoughtfully, with a lot of care and consideration for the potential consequences.
So it's not just a free-for-all. They're not just throwing open the doors and saying, go wild.
Not at all. They've been incredibly transparent about LLaMA's capabilities, but they've also gone to great lengths to highlight its limitations. They've done tons of testing to identify potential biases, and they're putting a big emphasis on encouraging the entire AI community to prioritize responsible development.
So it's more about collaboration and shared responsibility than just unleashing this powerful AI into the world and hoping for the best.
Exactly. It's about making sure this technology is used for good, and that's going to take a collective effort.
I really like that approach because it feels like we're at a turning point with AI, and LLaMA could be that push we need to start thinking differently about how we develop and share these incredibly powerful tools. So zooming out for a second, what's the big takeaway for our listeners? What does all of this LLaMA stuff actually mean in the grand scheme of things?
For me, it boils down to democratizing AI. LLaMA represents this incredible opportunity to level the playing field, to make sure that the ability to shape the future of AI isn't limited to just a handful of big companies.
It's like we're opening up this incredible toolbox and saying, okay, everyone, let's see what we can build together, but with, some really important safety guidelines in place.
Precisely. And those possibilities, they're pretty much endless. Imagine a world where LLaMA-like models are being used to personalize education, to break down language barriers in healthcare, or even to create entirely new forms of art and storytelling.
It's almost like we're on the verge of a new renaissance, but instead of being driven by paint and canvas, it's being fueled by algorithms and data.
It's a lot to wrap your head around, that's for sure.
It really is, and I think that's what makes LLaMA so fascinating. It's not just a technological leap forward. It's a catalyst for us to rethink our entire relationship with AI, to start approaching it with a sense of shared responsibility, but also with a sense of boundless creativity.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that's our show for today, everyone. We've covered a lot of ground, from the nitty-gritty of how LLaMA works to the big picture implications of open source AI. And I have to say, this deep dive into LLaMA has been a wild ride. I don't know about you all out there listening, but I'm feeling incredibly inspired to see where this game-changing technology takes us.
Me too. And who knows? Maybe something we talked about today will spark an idea in one of our listeners that leads to the next big breakthrough in AI.
No, that's a thought. To all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep imagining the possibilities because the future of AI is being written right now, and it's a story we all get to be a part of.